Hi, it's Steve from EasyTRC. Wanted to talk through one of the core concepts of a TRC is a total resource campaign. So it's kind of the C in TRC. Let's talk through what that looks like in the system, how that gets edited, and how you can uh, change the settings for each one of your campaigns that you're going to run. Let's get started. So each one of your campaigns will have a unique URL in the system. Each one of your organizations has a unique URL as well. Here in Columbia, it would be columbiamo.easytrc.com. In this situation here, I'm showing test.easytrc.com. This is where everybody will log in. They're logging into the latest campaign that is active in your system. They're also shown the status of the current campaign that's running, if it is running. If it is not, they will not be shown any information here, but anything about your goal, progress towards that goal, what that percentage is, and if that goal has been achieved, and then a little bit of information down here that are shown in other places as well, that there's an additional 56,000 in 57 pending contracts as well. I cover on what a pending contract is in the training video about all about contracts, so take a look at that. The view available sponsorships here is anything that's available for this campaign. Again, I'll cover that in a different area as well. Let's concentrate right now on what an actual campaign is. So this one, it's just called Chamber Magic. Obviously, you can have a logo and you can brand it the way you want it. Everybody will have a login to this campaign. You certainly can restrict them to this current campaign. You don't have to give them access to previous ones in the past or anything like that. We have several different levels of campaign logins. We have a campaign observer that can do pretty much everything a salesperson could do, see everything. It's kind of a blend between a salesperson and an administrator. You can see everything an admin can see without being able to edit. You can also see everything that a salesperson can see without being able to edit, so you can hop between them. Again, I covered that in a separate video, but want to talk through again what an individual campaign looks like. So let me just log in as an administrator here and go from there if I put the right password in. Okay. Little side note there. I'll get into the settings as well. You can restrict who can log in and when. There are date restrictions. Certainly, as an administrator, I can log in at any given time. But the campaign here, I logged in. I've got a lot of information about my organization and the current campaign I'm running. Having a little silliness with the naming here, of course, and the year, and kind of going with the Harry Potter theme. So I made up a bunch of words to give it the campaign setting that I could talk about in the campaign settings here. All of these products that are sellable, the salespeople, the users, all of those can be associated with the campaign. The buyers are just your members, so they float obviously between campaigns and they're reused from campaign to campaign. But I'm just going to kind of talk about teams. You could certainly have users on teams between campaigns. Of course, you don't have the same things. You have a campaign leaderboard, so this shows your campaign weeks, which I'll cover in a moment here as well. And of course, that logo I was talking about a minute ago. Here you see this is a rather long campaign that's lasting months and months and months. That's split up into weeks, which I'll cover here in a moment. So that's kind of what people see from the front side. If you go over to the any one of these campaign leaderboards and you see what's going on, the campaign information, the goals for the campaign, the top performers for this, again covered in other videos as well about what this leaderboard looks like. But just kind of want to show you, it's very cognizant of where you are in the campaign throughout the system. So it's important to have those settings in there correct. So let's dive into what that looks like. If I click into admin in the upper right hand corner, you have a whole section here for campaign weeks, the goals, notices, and settings. When you logged in, you saw a notice on the home page there about the logging in via Facebook. You can add notices. Let's just keep it totally simple here. You can create a campaign notice. It says, "Hi everyone," and you could add a campaign notice to the home screen when they log in. You can put detailed information in here and when that information should appear and when it should disappear. By default, it's going to show up today and it's going to disappear in a week. So whenever you log in and do this, these are already preset for you. So you don't have to change those around. If you want it to just be a week, great. If you want to make it a month, just change that around and you're good to go. And now if somebody logs into the system, they're going to see something that looks somewhat like that. So you can keep creating more campaign notices and go from there, but that's good enough for the campaign notices. So let's talk about just in overall the settings for the campaign. You can get to the settings in two different ways. One is via the dashboard. This is where the shows the edit the you can edit the current campaign, shows information about the current campaign, what the title is, begin date, and all that. And you can click edit this campaign. This link basically just hops you down to here, which is go into the campaign settings. It helps you to the current campaign directly. But if I click here for campaign settings, this is where I would hop into old campaigns. You may need to go into an old campaign and look at some information for whatever reason. You can get to that as anybody else could. Basically, we add a little warning up here to the top, says, hey, you're viewing last year's or whatever year's campaign. Just as a warning, we may make that a little bigger. Some people want to see that a little bigger, but just kind of a warning that you're looking at an old campaign. You can't do certain things in that current campaign, but you can do almost everything. We do put warnings on the screen with that, but if you need to dig around, that's kind of the best way to do it. So I click on View Current Campaign. That's going to hop me back in. We just made that notification with the silly message, so that's kind of there. You kind of see that on the screen. Let me go back into the admin area and go back into Settings again. And again, I can see that. I don't need to hop around into there. I'm going to click Edit this campaign directly. So let's talk about this screen. Lots of stuff going on here that controls a lot of other areas. If this campaign is active, check that box. Real complicated. The campaign title, you want to probably keep it simple. TRC 2018 or whatever year. Kind of talk about in detail what this means. This is not the slogan, that's further down on the screen. If you change that, it changes the URL. So basically what I'm saying here is that when you see 2018 TRC, is that we kind of embed that up here so people know where they are. We'll replace spaces with dashes, and then we put a little number identifier here for us internally. So it's just a way to make a unique URL that we know exactly what's going on. When somebody sends us a URL, we know that this is, and internally it's campaign ID 12, but you guys don't care about that. You care about the actual title, and so that's where that comes from. If I was to change this to campaign TRC something else, or remove that space or something, the point here is that it's going to regenerate this URL, so it's going to invalidate the other links. So when you pick this name, pick it once, and you probably won't change it. It's not going to break anything per se, but it will break the links to the old name if somebody has a link to those contracts. So kind of set that and be done with it and go from there. Most people pick a campaign year obviously as a calendar year. Some people choose to do spring if they do 2 in a year, whatever. The purpose, usually that's pretty, what's the purpose of a chamber? Put that type of stuff in here just to get more information about it. You can put a slogan in there about get your motor running. Here I have Engorgio Sonoris Wingardium Leviosa. So that's just something to display throughout the campaign in a couple other screens and on contracts and stuff to know what's going on. You can upload a logo, a campaign icon, or what have you. Here I just made one up with Harry Potter type of thing. You can choose a new one to upload, or you can just click here to remove that image, and when you save it will remove that from the system. Next thing down here, show the campaign logo on contracts. I cover this in the All About Contracts list. Here I have it set to no. If I change that to yes, it will basically take this logo, not this big though, and it will put it on every contract. And so if you want that on there, great, you would turn that to yes. New feature in 2018 is that you can actually finally change the primary color of the campaign. You can change this for each year. So maybe this year it's green, maybe next year it's purple, whatever. We kind of went with this burnt orange looking color that we've adopted, and that's the default in here. But if you want to change that, you can pick something else. There are several ways to pick those colors. We're just looking for a hex color to keep things simple on our side. I put a link in there and you can go and pick it. But obviously if you're working with a graphic designer or whatever colors you guys want to pick, let's pick a color and just run with it. So I'm going to pick a really annoying looking color here, and it generated that FF33CC. And I'm going to go back over here and I can actually just put it in there. It's important to put the hash, don't do that, geez. Put the hashtag in the front of that it marks it as a hex color so we know what to do with it. So, and when I hit save, you'll notice that all the screens are going to turn this lovely shade of purple. The goal amount, this is the total amount that is to be raised. It's going to be used in calculations. It's going to be showed percentage and all over the screens. If you guys choose to up that goal, it's just going to change it. You can change that at any time, no big deal. If you want to hide the campaign totals from the salespeople, you'll turn this on. Why would you do that? You want to do that probably near the end of your campaign because you want to keep it a secret and you want to do a big reveal at a victory celebration or something. I'm going to turn that on for now so you can see what that does throughout the system. If you're all in one team or you have a very few number of people could probably figure out what the grand total, if they've hit the goal or not. But the idea here is, a lot of campaigns we have enough people, and things are split across teams, and people aren't going to really work at it. We're just kind of keeping the lazy people out that are going to say, hey, did we hit goal? Yeah, it's 420,000. That's what you're trying to avoid there by hiding it. We want to create a little suspense. The public link to the leaderboard, I talked about that on the login screen. So if I hop back out to that login screen here, if I say yes, this information is here. If you say no, it hides that information from there, so it doesn't put that on there at all. So right now that is yes. There you go. And then the leaderboard, that is one of the screens I showed on the other area. Let me hop over into one of those real quick. I think I showed that already, but if I hop into one of these campaign leaderboards, the information here, there are multiple settings we could do for this leaderboard. So you have the goal grid, which we can cover in a different section. The goals, what the goal is for trade and renewal per product type is there. But the setting you're looking for here is I want to see the top 10 individual producers and what's going on in here. So let me go back to the campaign settings and show you what I was talking about here. This is the top individual count to show 10. If you want to show 5, you want to show 20, whatever. The idea is we had some very large campaigns that had over 100 people, and we were only showing the top 10. If people want to show the top 30, you certainly can change that to there. This is an interesting concept that one of the chambers requested, is that you want to indicate something as a rookie. Let me magnify that. I'm sorry, this is a very small screen. You want to magnify that up to see that, but you want to magnify rookies. Great segue there. Rookie campaign count. How many years should they be in the system before they are not considered a rookie? So if you put them in as 2, let's say the first 2 years that you're in here as a user, you will be considered a rookie. And you may have seen that on this screen here that Stacy Bryant Wimp here is a rookie. And so you see that, oh hey, this guy's doing pretty good because he's actually number 2 on this list of sales, and he's just a rookie. So if you wanted to highlight that those individuals that way, you can certainly do that. If you don't want anybody to be a rookie, just set this to 77, 99, 13, whatever, more than you have campaigns, and nobody will be flagged as a rookie. Or you could just uncheck this box. So whatever you want to do. You got 2 different ways of hiding the rookie concept, but we do need you to put some number in here. So if I say a 1 for that, he just won't show that. Allow public link to the available sponsorships. That is I'm sorry, this one I told you wrong up here. Public link to the leaderboard. That was the public link that went to this screen. You can copy this URL and share it out, and here's the campaign leaderboard. If you want that to be publicly accessible, that was this checkbox. The other link I was talking about, public link to available sponsorships, that's where you turn this on and off. So that was again that screen here where you had the sponsorships, view sponsorships, and you can click on that without logging in. That is where you control that. I apologize, I've got those backwards. So display the budget fiscal year on contracts in the admin area. This is we've had a couple chambers that want to mark products with different campaign budget fiscal years. If everything you do is under the same budget fiscal year, great. Don't even mess with this. Just say no, and it will exclude that information. But if you do have stuff that's in 2018 and 2019, and for your accountant, just to keep them from losing their mind, you want to show that information on contracts in the admin area. That is something that is not shown to the salespeople or anywhere else. That's just more of an accounting thing from the backside. And here's a lot of notes on what that means. If you want to talk about that in more detail, let us know. New membership product. This is all of the products that are in the system marked as memberships. We need to know which one of these you would consider a new membership product. And the reason for that is when you are here on the home screen and you have an item over here that says, if you turn it on, you can actually create a new membership right here with that button. Now you're not seeing that over here because that is turned off. So we can actually turn that on by picking a membership product from there. So I think I may have an issue while I'm talking about this. You should have a button over here that says sell a new membership, and that will take you to this same button. Creating a new company is not necessarily what I want to do here. I've got a setting turned on for someone else, so I need to fix that. So again, apologize for that. But the concept here is that when you create the new membership button or add a new membership, what product should that be associated with? And usually it's this. You just call it a chamber membership and you're good. This is pretty typical, by the way, while we're talking about products that you're going to add. You have associate memberships, chamber membership, and then the secondary representative, because those have different prices. That'll be a different video about products over here that we're talking about. We're just going through the campaign settings in hyper detail. Okay, the noun that we're using for salespeople, some people don't want to call them salespeople. Some people's accountants get really freaked out about that. They want to call them volunteers, volunteer salespeople, sales cowboys, monkeys, chickens, whatever you want to call them. Maybe something, you call them cowboys for the Western themed campaign or whatever, but this will replace the noun of salesperson and salespeople, individual and collectively throughout the system. So most people leave this as salesperson and salespeople. Other people change it to volunteer and volunteers. So we go from there. The contact person at the chamber, probably you. This is the person that they should contact if they have questions. This is what goes on the bottom of every contract. This is what goes in the upper right hand corner when you scroll up here. When a person, here we go, it says questions, contact Don at this number. That is where that is, and then on each contract you also see then information as well, and the emails look to be coming from that person. So this is kind of a lot of contact touch points for that. The accountant, again, I covered this in the contract all about contracts video, but this is the person at your is the campaign accountant. If that's you, great. If you don't use one, leave it blank, no big deal. Campaign chairs, these are the actual the people that are picked here. Sorry, let me go through these. This is anybody in this list is in your organization. So if you're the Columbia, Missouri Chamber, and that is your company that you're set up as, these are all the people from your chamber that are in here as the system. The accountant is the same person, the same deal. If they're associated with your chamber, that's this list. These are actually all the users in the system, in your chamber, and anybody who's a user, an active user in the system. They're all just listed here because obviously a chairperson or a chair user can be anybody that's involved with the campaign. They don't necessarily have to work for that. So here in this case, Cheryl Jarvis, she works for a local bank, and then Jackie Walters, there's a realtor. We certainly don't have, they certainly aren't associated with the chamber directly. So, okay. Campaign weeks, big deal here, kind of what's going on. There's a begin date, and then allow salespeople to log in before that begin date. There's the weeks, then there's an end date, and then there's to log in after the end date. And I'm covering these for a couple different reasons. So the idea here for the begin date is all about when are you going to let these people log in before this date or not. So this does not necessarily have to be when the campaign weeks show up. Most people make it that way. Maybe you're letting them log in a day early. Like in this case, we're saying April 2nd is when they can log in at 8 a.m. or after. If you say no there, you're not, that doesn't let them get in at all until that date. If you say yes, they can log in anytime before that. The campaign weeks, sorry, and then let's talk about this. The end date, same kind of concept. When do you want to lock them out? So here I showed June 15th, and that's way back here, right? That was week 8. I put a bunch of junk in here after the fact that goes through the end of the year, but I don't want that. They can't really log in and do anything from after that time. That's the actual salesperson logging in after that date. They can't log in after that. You want to log in and you want to record contracts after that date. You want to have those campaign weeks, but this is when you lock those people out. So here is allow salespeople to log in after that end date. No, so they can't do that. Allows you to log in before start date. No, that would be your most restrictive way of doing that. So the campaign weeks, let's talk about that briefly. You've got the campaign week We use the word week. That's a loose association. It does not have to be 7 days at all. You can make it any period you want. Here we have a renewal period, which is pretty typical of 2 to 3 weeks time. Here I have April 3rd, April 23rd, and I'm marking it as a renewal period. Now the concept, let's talk about a couple things here. Obviously, one is that we're calling it the renewal period. So if you're in you're in year 2, 3, or 4, or 5 of your campaigns, you want to be able to give your salespeople time to go out and contact the people that are going to sell to their contracts from the previous year. And so being a renewal period, at checking this box, that's going to change how those contracts can be created and how the wording is affected in other areas of the system. If you always want to allow everything to be a renewal period and locking people out the entire campaign, you certainly can do that and edit those things around. But this is a pretty typical thing where there's a renewal period, and then after the renewal period, it's kind of fair game. Like, hey, we gave you 3 weeks, kind of an exclusive time to renew your contracts. If you didn't get to it, you're probably not going to get to it, whatever. And then kind of the renewal period, the blackout period, maybe would be another way to describe the renewal period. It's like, hey, there's nobody else can sell these things until the renewal or blackout period is over. So now, important part of these campaign weeks is that there is no overlap in any of this. So if you have overlap, that's going to cause problems in several different ways. Let's say here accidentally I had April 23rd here, and then I had April 23rd here as well. If I sold a contract on April 23rd, it would be counted in the renewals period and in week 1. So I've had a couple chambers that have come back and say, hey, what's going on? And we had to spend 2 hours trying to figure that one out, and realize that, hey, these dates overlap. So it's very important that these dates do not overlap or have holes or gaps in between them, because if you have a contract that's marked as sold on a date that's not on here, like say April 1st, right? It doesn't know what week to put it in. That's okay if you don't want to count it towards the totals. So you can actually keep that kind of off the books, right? You can have a contract that's not counted in the campaign totals, and again, that's okay. It's just, and we show you a warning when that happens. In fact, let's just do that real quick. I'm going to go up to a contract here, and I'm going to grab this contract, and I'm going to update the contract status to sold, and I'm going to mark it as April 1st. So this one is marked as sold. I'm going to just click update status. It's going to send that out. Great. I'm going to go back to the contracts, and I'm going to see that that contract is marked as sold. If I go back to the dashboard here, I am now shown one contract is marked as sold on a date that falls outside of any campaign week. And that says there's one contract that's included in the overall campaign total, but will not show up on the leaderboard. So that's how that works. We even give you that filter, so if you want to hop back right to it and say, what did I do? Something's weird. Because if you're seeing, I added a bunch of contracts, but I'm not seeing everything add up correctly, this is kind of a way to find those real quick. So that was a nice way to do that. So so that's all about campaign periods and campaign weeks. If I go back into there, let me go back into settings. Let me go back where I was, right? I'm way down on this screen. I'm on the campaign weeks. So I'm going to cover the weeks a little more detail in a minute. Let's just finish out this screen real fast. So I got down here to the login dates. Show a campaign event calendar link on the home page. There is a screen on the bottom, or a link on the bottom down here, campaign events. Any event that you put in the system can be marked as a campaign event. It's a little checkbox that when you're editing or creating that campaign or that event, that it can be marked as a campaign event. If you view that calendar, it takes all those campaign weeks, and anything that's marked as a campaign week would show up under this. Obviously, I've given you a very bad example where most of them don't have one, but here's one that has there's an event, final deadline, and there's a wrapped up leaderboard. If I hopped into somebody else's campaign, there would probably be at least one, probably a reward session or a victory celebration or a kickoff or a training. Those could all be in here as events. The nice part is that it shows up on the event calendar, but it's also a sponsorable event. So if you have somebody that's a location sponsor for your victory celebration, it's a local pub and grill that you can sell that item and advertise it, but also communicate your campaign calendar all at the same time. So in that case, you would create an event and just check the box that said that that was a campaign event and go from there. But let me go back into the campaign settings real quick, and scroll down here and say the last thing on here is a set of files that you can add. This is where people will upload their campaign manual, and you put a description here or whatever. You go choose a PDF, you choose a JPEG, you choose whatever, anything, any file you want to upload, and those will show up on the home page. Let me go find one real quick so I can show you where that goes. So let me grab one off the dashboard, off the desktop here. I've got a silly one somewhere in the middle of here. Let's see. Well, I thought I had one. There it was. There we go. So I just grab one, put it in there. It's a PDF upload file, and it's there. The file's been added. This changes have been saved. You're good to go. This information will appear if I hop over the front side again, go back to the home page, and that information is right here. There's a campaign manual documents loaded into here. That's where that information will show up on the right hand side. Okay, last thing in here, important part, campaign weeks. Thanks for hanging with me. I know this is a long video, but it's all important stuff, I hope. Campaign weeks. Previously that you can edit this one, you could not edit this at all. You had to call us and we had to edit them for you. And again, you're kind of impressing upon you the importance of not having gaps in here and overlaps. That was kind of the big problem we had when we let people edit that. We put that back in there so you can actually edit those campaign weeks directly yourself here as well. If I click on campaign weeks, again, very obvious. It's important that that information is accurate. Here's those weeks. But we have a lot of campaigns that extend their wrap-up periods and things that are happening late in the year. So they want to add a new one. You certainly can add a new one now. Give it a name, give it a begin date and end date, mark the renewal period, and you're good to go. You cannot delete weeks. It's rare that people even want to do that. Most people just edit the weeks that are in there. If you want to delete a week outright, give us a call. And here we give some more details about how they don't need to be 7 days long. You can certainly adjust that. Good example here. Oops, I had to put in April 3rd. We're ready. Let's start a day early. Let's put that back in a second. Hit save, and now that campaign is now your campaign starts on April 2nd instead of April 3rd. So lots in the campaigns there. I hope that's pretty helpful. Happy to talk about that in more detail if anybody needs something. That's kind of how campaigns work. I will talk about campaign rolling and how a campaign can roll forward in a separate video. But the idea here is that once you have, at the end of your campaign, you have contracts marked as sold and everything's done. How do I do this next year without re-entering everything, right? And how do I assign renewal rights and how do I do all that? That's in all the campaign rolling concept. We roll everything forward for you and make it super easy for people to renew contracts with only 2 clicks, and it's ready to rock. You obviously can adjust everything forward, but we want to get you 95% of the way there by rolling your campaign forward with that. So let's talk about that in a separate video, but I hope that was helpful in the campaigns. Thanks.